So we're going to cover a couple of different things. So first thing I want to cover is this tweet from Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, and this came out a few hours earlier today. And he goes, quote, "I'm heading out to the United States for my 7th trip to meet with President Trump since he was elected for a 2nd term. This, of course, does not include his unforgettable visit to Israel and his speech in the Knesset." Which, by the way, if you guys remember his speech at the Knesset, he basically admitted that he was bribed by Jewish oligarchs like Mir Mandelson. Literally admitted that shit while he was there in the Knesset. "I believe these things reflect the unique closeness in the extraordinary relationship we have with the United States. In person between me and the president and between the state of Israel and the United States, something unprecedented in our history. On this trip, we will discuss a series of issues, Gaza, the region, but of course, first and foremost, the negotiations with Iran." Yeah, this is the only reason he's coming over. Okay? He doesn't give a fuck about Gaza. Okay? He doesn't even really care too much about disarming Hezbollah. Okay? The thing with your boy Benjamin Netanyahu, anytime he travels to the United States, that is code for we want to bomb Iran and we want to get U.S. support when we do it. Carrying on, quote, "I'll present the president our positions regarding the principles of the negotiations, the important principles, and in my view, they are important not only for Israel, but for everyone in the world who wants peace and security in the Middle East." So I went ahead. This got quite a bit of likes too, which is hilarious. Translation: "I'm going to the United States to sell my war plan to Trump before second round of negotiations. I will also tell Trump that if the Iranians do not disarm their ballistic missile program, stop funding their proxies, and lower uranium enrichment down to 0%, we will attack them with or without the United States and drag the U.S. into a regional war with or without their consent." Reader, you're welcome. And, obviously I posted this as well. I think I posted it here. Let's see. Yeah, 400K. So a lot of people liked it because I basically fucking identified what the fuck was going on here. So what do we got here? Right? We have the Prime Minister of Israel going to the United States for the 7th time. So first, let's talk about official visits and foreign leaders coming to the United States. Foreign leaders come to the United States maybe once or twice a year at most, okay, to go to the White House. Benjamin Netanyahu's 7th visit within a year pretty much. Well, we're in February, Trump took office in January. So roughly 13 months, 7 visits. That is unprecedented for another world leader. Okay. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is framing it as, oh, this, goes to, show our great relationship that we have with the United States. No. It goes to show how, in lockstep, the United States and Israel are, and how much influence they have on us. They have an incredible amount of influence on the United States, especially with this administration. Okay? Now, Netanyahu, as a politician, is fantastic at dressing up what's really going on here. Okay? So what is really going on here? So what you guys see here is the Middle East. Okay? Israel, this nice little sliver of land here. Okay? Iran, pretty far away. Okay? Now, why does this matter? Because you guys need to understand where we are in this conflict. And I'm going to speed run and give you guys the cliff notes of how we got here, because how we got here is going to be incredibly important so you can understand where we're going to go from here. Does that make sense? So let's go through this quickly. We're going to start at October 7th, 2023. Hamas invades Israel. Thousands are killed. First they said 2,000, then they revised it down to 1,200. I've had this debate many times, right, with people about the Hannibal Directive, all the shit that happened on October 7th, but that's, for the purpose of today's conversation, that's not what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on Hamas invading Israel, because this was the beginning of everything. I mean, it goes back beyond that, but for purposes of this conversation and understanding this current conflict, we're going to start October 7th, okay? So get your notebooks ready, sit back and enjoy. I'm going to explain this to you guys. So when Hamas invaded Israel, for a multitude of different geopolitical and religious reasons, which I went into great detail before, Israel responded heavily handed. They began an invasion into Gaza, which is one of the most densely populated places in the world. We're talking 2.3 million people. Okay, this little strip here. They first led with 1 million airstrikes, followed by a ground assault. During the course of this ground assault and airstrikes, they were able to pretty much destabilize and destroy the majority of the Hamas infrastructure. Despite the fact that Hamas hides in tunnels and has exercised quite a bit of guerrilla warfare, Israel has been fairly successful in dismantling, disrupting, and for the most part, destroying Hamas. Okay? They're kind of on their last leg now. There still are some resistance fighters left, but for the most part, their leadership is gone. Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated. And Yahya Sinwar. These guys right here. This dude and this dude. Okay? The two main leaders of Hamas, he was the head of the military wing, he was the head of the political wing, were assassinated by Israel. He was killed in Iran via Mossad, an intelligence operation in country. He was killed in October of last year, actually on accident, in Rafah, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So the leadership is gone. Oh, and they also killed this guy too. Another notable figure for Hamas. Abu Ubaidah. Okay. He's the guy that famously would do all the speeches with the fiyah in his on his face. Okay. So here he is. So they killed military wing guy, the diplomat guy for the political wing, and they killed the spokesperson. Okay. They also killed a bunch of other high-ranking guys, but for the purpose of conversation, once again, we're keeping it simple. So Hamas has pretty much been destroyed. Okay. There's still some remnants, but for the most part, they've been destroyed. There's currently a ceasefire in place, which Israel has been violating, but that's neither here nor there. This is one of the proxies, okay? Hamas is backed and supported by Iran, okay? So they were disrupted. Then, after Israel led their successful campaign in Gaza, they began the process of invading Lebanon. Okay, and the reason why they began invading Lebanon on the ground was because Hezbollah, this organization right here, okay, who is also another proxy funded by Iran, okay, it's a militant group out of Lebanon, they were shooting rockets into Israel, northern Israel. This entire area of northern Israel, we'll call it the Haifa greater metropolitan area, for lack of a better term, so I can kind of Americanize this for you guys, because this is a very important big port city. This whole area had roughly 60,000 Israelis that had to be evacuated. Okay? This whole area here. Because Hezbollah was shooting rockets into northern Israel. Why were they doing this? They were doing this to weaken the IDF's presence in Gaza. They knew that if they were bombing northern Israel, Israel would have to mobilize the IDF and other military and intelligence assets into northern Israel to deal with the rockets coming in, right? For security purposes. And one of the things that you can do in warfare like this where you're outmatched, right? Because the IDF is a very competent and powerful military because they have U.S. technology and U.S. support, is you can make them fight on two different fronts, okay? So while the IDF was launching a huge ground invasion and a large-scale airstrike operation, there were also assets in the north. And once they killed Yahya Sinwar, this guy, okay, in October of 2024, right around that time, this is when they began the ground assault into Lebanon, okay? And when they conducted the ground assault into Lebanon, multiple things happened, okay? First, there was a successful pager attack, okay? Okay? And this pager attack killed, maimed, and took out a lot of Hezbollah members. And the Israelis, basically, long story short, had infiltrated Hezbollah's supply chain with communication devices. They were able to get like a contract with them. They built these devices, put bombs in them, because Hezbollah was looking for older technology that couldn't be intercepted, walkie-talkies, beepers, etc. Right? And they simultaneously exploded these devices on September 17th and September 18th. Okay? Now, while this was going on, they also launched a ground assault into Lebanon. So they did the pager attack, they invaded on the ground, and the final touch, they started conducting massive airstrikes. Okay? And they killed this guy right here, the head of Hezbollah. Okay? So, recap. October 7th happens. Hamas invades Israel. These guys right here. I'm going to bring this all together for you guys here soon. This is Hamas. Okay? They invaded Israel. After invading Israel, Israel launched a massive ground and air assault on the Gaza Strip, killing tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands when this is all said and done. This totally crippled and dismantled and disrupted Hamas operations. Their top two guys, or their top three guys, Abu Ubaidah, Yahya Sinwar, and Ismail Haniyeh, were killed, effectively leaving them rudderless and headless. Then they began the campaign into Lebanon. They invaded southern Lebanon, were fighting with them on the ground, launched the pager attack, and also launched airstrikes in Beirut. These airstrikes hit their target and killed this guy, Hassan Nasrallah. They also assassinated a bunch of other Hezbollah high-ranking members. But I'll keep it simple for you guys and just let you know. They dismantled Hamas, then they went after Hezbollah. After the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, this directly led to the fall of the Assad regime. Okay? Now, what the fuck is the Assad regime? This guy right here. Okay? The Assads had run Syria for several decades. Now, the reason why I'm showing you guys this on a map is that this is important for you guys to understand from a geographic perspective why this is important. So Hamas gets disrupted here, Proxy 1. Hezbollah gets disrupted and dismantled here, Proxy 2. Now we're on to Proxy 3, the Bashar al-Assad regime. After the ceasefire that was brokered between Hezbollah and Israel, this kicked off a rebellion in Syria. Syria, having already been weakened for a decade plus with sectarian wars all over the fucking country, all right, had amassed a bunch of different groups and paramilitia groups that fought against the Syrian army. The problem here is that Syria was holding on to power thanks to Hezbollah and the Russians. The Russians came in with their air power, and Hezbollah came in with their fighting force. The Syrian military is extremely incompetent, unpaid, and angry. This is why Syria fell so quickly. Since a lot of these military officials in Syria were not getting paid by the government, right, and were in inferior military, a lot of them gave up. And the Russians could not supply the air power to Bashar al-Assad because they had their hands full with Ukraine. Now, what ended up happening was after the ceasefire was brokered between Hezbollah and Israel out of Lebanon, this led to the rise of Ahmed al-Shara, a former member of Al-Qaeda, a.k.a. al-Jolani. This guy led HTS, okay, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, okay? And what he basically did is he began a campaign out of the Idlib province, or the Idlib area of Syria, and he took his people and he went into Aleppo, took that over in a day, and then worked his way back down and took Hama, Homs, and then eventually got himself to Damascus. Damascus is where the palace is. Bashar al-Assad, realizing that his country was falling before his very own eyes, fled. So by the time that Ahmed al-Shara got to Damascus, Bashar al-Assad was already on a plane headed for Moscow. And Syria fell within a couple of days. And the only reason why it fell was because the Israelis are smart. They destroyed Hamas, began a campaign into Lebanon, disrupted and dismantled Hezbollah, though they did not destroy them, but they significantly incapacitated them. With Hezbollah weakened, they were not able to come in and assist Bashar al-Assad on the ground, and the Russians were unable to provide air power. This forced Bashar al-Assad to leave, and Ahmed al-Shara took power. Ahmed al-Shara, some people say, is a CIA asset. He was former Al-Qaeda. They took the bounty off his head. Look, that's neither here nor there. The bottom line that you need to know is that Ahmed al-Shara is friendly to the West. He got sanctions removed from the United States that had been in place for a very long time. He is friendly with Israel, cordial, I would say. Okay. And what he did in exchange for the United States removing the sanctions was he basically kicked out Hezbollah, and he also kicked out the IRGC. Now, what is the IRGC? The IRGC is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, okay? This is a component or an arm of the Iranian military. Now, the IRGC had a large presence in Syria, okay? And the reason why is because Syria is in a pivotal geographic location to be able to support and help equip Hezbollah, who is the most competent on-ground fighting force that the axis of resistance has. So when Ahmed al-Shara came into power, one of the first things that he did was he kicked the IRGC out of Syria, and he did not allow them to resupply, replenish, and assist Hezbollah in their wounded state. And in exchange, the United States agreed to lift the sanctions from Syria. Also, when Ahmed al-Shara took power, which a lot of people don't talk about, but I will add this in because this is pertinent, the Israelis bombed all of the military infrastructure of Syria. So despite the fact that Israel kind of ushered this leader into power, the Israelis also don't trust this guy. So they destroyed their military infrastructure for extra security. Because as you guys are starting to see, there's a trend here where Israel doesn't like Muslims and Arabs having weapons that can hurt them. Okay? And they use the concept of national security to justify their bombings. Okay? Now, why am I telling you all of this? I am telling you guys all of this because this adds to the urgency from which Benjamin Netanyahu is coming to the United States, or is in the United States for that matter. Now, let's quickly recap. October 7th, Hamas, these motherfuckers right here, these guys right here, invade Israel. Okay? AKA Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. They invade Israel. This leads to the siege of the Gaza Strip, the invasion of the Gaza Strip, the airstrikes all across the Gaza Strip, coupled with a ground assault. During the course of their campaign in Gaza, they killed Yahya Sinwar, they assassinated Ismail Haniyeh in Iran, and they also killed Abu Ubaidah. Okay? These are some large figureheads within the organization. They also killed many other members, but for the purposes of this conversation, we're going to keep it simple. After they conducted and completed their campaign in Gaza, they then went into Lebanon. to the north to deal with these guys who were shooting rockets into Israel that had to get 60,000 people evacuated. They led a ground assault. The goal was to get to Beirut. They were not able to do that because Hezbollah is actually very competent ground fighters. They kept the Israelis at bay in southern Lebanon, but the Israelis were still successful because they were able to conduct the pager attack, which rattled and caused quite a bit of disruption, and they killed two large figureheads of Hezbollah. This guy, Hassan Nasrallah, and just for added information, this guy right here, Fuad Shukr. Okay. They killed him too. This led to pandemonium, disruption, and damn near the dismantlement of Hezbollah. Okay? Now, as soon as they successfully assassinated Hassan Nasrallah, even though they had a failed land coup or a failed land attempt, they still weakened and disrupted Hezbollah enough where they agreed to a ceasefire. This ceasefire directly led to the fall of the Assad regime, because with Hezbollah weakened and your boy Ahmed al-Shara leading a campaign all across Syria, killing people all over the place in the Syrian military, or getting them to simply just comply and give up, he comes into power within days. Once he seizes power, he kicks the IRGC out. Okay? And he decides to not arm or rearm Hezbollah and not use Syria for what it was before, which was a transit country to move supplies and resources from Tehran to Beirut to support Hezbollah because Syria was in the way. So Ahmed al-Shara came into power and cut the supply lines in exchange for Western acceptance and sanction relief. So he is playing ball with the Israelis and the West. Okay? Now, this is 1, Hamas, 2, Hezbollah, 3, Bashar al-Assad regime. These three are what's called proxies from the axis of resistance that Iran has been funding for many years to insulate themselves against U.S. and Israeli aggression. They did this after seeing the Middle East fall to U.S. foreign policy that's run by Jewish Zionists. There's one last member of the axis of resistance, actually two other members. You have the Houthis down here, who were also weakened by the Israelis because they killed government members. The U.S. was relentlessly striking them, and they're still intact to a degree. Okay? And you also have militia groups within Iraq that also are backed by Iran, but they are not as powerful as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and the Bashar al-Assad regime. So all of the proxies have pretty much been disrupted, dismantled, and need to replenish. Okay? And Israel was behind all of these proxies going down to some degree, whether they overtly did it themselves or they funded militia groups like Ahmed al-Shara to do it. Israel is behind every single component of these proxies being destroyed. Now, this leads me to why Netanyahu is here. There are a couple of things that the Israelis want, okay? There are three main things. Number one, no nuclear program, okay? They don't even want civilian level damn near. Number two, they want their ballistic missile program pretty much dismantled, okay? 300 kilometers or something like that, where the missiles can't actually be a threat to Israel. Number three, they want the Iranians to stop funding and supporting the proxies that Israel just destroyed, that I just identified for you guys in that long explanation. That's why I had to explain everything so you guys understand the complexity of the proxies and why the Israelis want Iran to stop funding them. And also, time is not on the Israeli side. Every day that passes, Hezbollah is rebuilding. Every day that passes, Hamas is rebuilding. Every day that passes, the Houthis are rebuilding. Every day that passes, the Iraqis are becoming more emboldened to resist. And then every day that passes, the Iranians are making more missiles. Okay? While simultaneously, the interceptor missiles that the Israelis rely on are not being produced at the same level. Okay? It's a bit more complex than that, but for the purpose of simplicity, the Iranians are manufacturing more weapons than the Israelis can manufacture defense to said weapons. So this creates an economic and strategic issue of security with the Israelis. Okay? Now, that's what the Israelis want. The United States understands that the Iranians have pretty much put a red line, and they said, we are only going to talk nuclear. We are not going to talk about the proxies that Israel destroyed. We are going to continue to support them and rebuild them. And we are not going to talk about our ballistic missile program, because our ballistic missile program is the only reason why we have these negotiations in the first place. Now, for you guys to understand the ballistic missile program and why Donald Trump and the Israelis are far more cautious with attacking Iran this time around, we must understand what happened during the 12-day war. So I gave you guys the lore on what happened after October 7th. And after October 7th happened, you fast forward to June of 2025. The proxies have been disrupted and dismantled. Iran is in a weakened state. The Israelis launched Operation Rising Lion, also known as the Israel-Iran War. During the course of this 12-day war, capabilities were exposed. The Israelis showed their hand and had a bunch of intelligence operatives come out from hiding, use drones to destroy air defense from within the country. And as this was happening, the Israelis intelligently and, marvelously utilized their air power to follow up on these assets, destroying this air defense, and bomb the fuck out of Iran. And the Iranians could not do anything about it. The Israelis enjoyed air superiority. That's, I think, irrefutable now at this point. Okay, facts are facts. They bombed several strategic locations, military locations, nuclear facilities. They killed several nuclear scientists and generals of the Iranian military or armed forces. And they had Iran basically blind and disoriented for roughly 24 hours. But after that was done, and the Iranians were able to regain their composure after getting the worst attack on them, probably in their history or modern history, we saw all hell break loose. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, tell if this is what you get for all your evil deeds. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. All jokes aside. When the Iranians retaliated, though the Israelis were successful in successfully removing much of the of shooting down much of the missiles and drones that came through, a lot of them actually landed. And the Iranians do have missiles that can get through the Iron Dome, Sling, THAAD, all that shit. Okay? And contrary to what Western media tells you, the Iranians caused a lot of damage. So much damage that they made it illegal for press to record it. Okay? So, after the 12-day war, some things were revealed. Okay? The Iranians understood that they have an air defense problem. The Israelis understood that you can't go ahead and launch an attack or a decapitation attempt without having people on the ground to lead a revolution and take over the country. Because the Israelis were hoping by bombing the fuck out of Iran that the people would take that opportunity to revolt against the government. The opposite happened. The Israelis inadvertently created what's called a rally around the flag effect, which is essentially, even though they were not happy because many people do not like the leadership in Iran. They hate the Israelis more. So what ended up happening was, instead of taking to the streets to overthrow their government, they took to the streets to say, fuck Israel. Hit them back. Hit them back. And that, my friends, is what they fucking did. They hit them back really hard. And not only did they hit them back hard, they hit them back so hard that the Israelis have basically put the ballistic missile program as the biggest threat to them. Let me say that again for you. The Iranians created so much damage to Haifa, Tel Aviv, and other strategic locations within Israel that the Israelis realized, oh shit, their nuclear program isn't really the biggest problem we have. Their ballistic missile program is the biggest issue that we have. And this is why you've seen, since the 12-day war, talks of another war being imminent at this point, or basically inescapable. Okay? Because what the Israelis had feared has come true. The Iranians had the capability of destroying Israel without a nuclear weapon. Okay? And that scares them. Because in their eyes, we have a regime that wants us gone. But the difference between Iran and all these other countries that wants us gone is because now we know they have the capability to make us gone.
Fatality.
And for the first time in Israel's short history, they've realized that they are very mortal. And they might not have had the military edge that they thought they had. Now, we've recapped everything. We covered the October 7th, we covered the proxies, and we covered the 12-day war. Now, let's fast forward to more contemporary events. Knowing that the Israelis have the capability of destroying the Israelis, that the Iranians have the capability of destroying the Israelis without nuclear weapons, there has been many talks about striking Iran again and getting rid of the regime. In order to facilitate this, Donald Trump, alongside the Israeli government, manufactured a financial crisis within Iran that we saw occur in the beginning of the year. The Treasury Secretary basically admitted it, that they worked to destroy the value of the Iranian currency, which is the rial. This shit right here. So the currency fucking like what? What's let's say $1 US? Holy. Yeah. You guys see where I'm going with this. Right? So the United States has sanctions. They crashed the currency, and CIA and Israeli Mossad operatives and other members of the intelligence community, probably MI6 and all these other guys, conducted agitation during riots. Now, when they crashed the currency, this made the people come out, obviously in droves, shut down their shops, say, what the fuck is going on? The money's worth nothing, blah, blah, blah. While this was occurring, intelligence assets from the West began also agitating and conducting acts of violence. This led to Iranian military and police taking lethal course of action to disrupt and neutralize some of these threats. Also, during the course of these riots, many people were captured. Now, I think we can all assume now that between Mike Pompeo, Israeli media, and other individuals, they all admitted that this was an intelligence operation. They literally said, Mike Pompeo said, Mossad walks amongst you, Iranian people. While this was happening, the Shah's son was also saying, rise up and take over your government. Well, that all failed. The United States and Israel wanted to attack Iran while these protests were happening, because they learned from their mistake from the fucking 12-day war, that attacking Iran alone without having someone on the ground to take over is futile, because the Israelis and the Americans know a boots on the ground approach to take over Iran is not it's not feasible. It's not possible. The country's too big. It's too mountainous. The casualties would simply be outrageous. We would get fucked up if we tried to do a ground assault. And then on top of that, you're dealing with a competent military. You're dealing with 90 million people. You would not be able to occupy and effectuate regime change during that occupation properly. And we have a history of foreign intervention in the Middle East. It simply doesn't work. Every country we've touched, we've destroyed. And countries in the Gulf, our allies, don't want that. They don't want that. So they tried to crash the currency, use intelligence operatives, use the protests as a means to destabilize the government. But the Iranians were prepared this time. How are they prepared? Well, enter the Chinese. The Chinese basically assisted Iran during these protests by having a satellite up and shutting down Starlink. So when the protests first came on, the Iranians, suspecting Western intervention, shut the internet off. This stopped and halted and brought the protests down significantly, which, confirmed the suspicions, which the U.S. already admitted, that intelligence operatives from the West were trying to sabotage and get involved in these protests for a regime change. After the Iranians turned the internet off, Starlink was activated to be able to allow these operatives to continue doing these agitation riots in Iran. The Chinese helped the Iranians shut that down as well. And during the pandemonium, the Iranians were able to arrest a bunch of these agitators. Okay? Something like 80 to 800, I forget the exact number. But hundreds of people were caught. Okay? And they were planned to be hanged, by the way. Now, Donald Trump puts out a tweet threatening the Iranian government that if they hang the people, we will strike. Well, at face value, you might say, oh man, this guy's a humanitarian. He's for the people. Yes, he wants to help the Iranian people. Well, if you're not a retard, you would also know that Donald Trump is responsible for the crippling fucking sanctions that Iran endures to this day. President Obama tried to have a nuclear deal, the JCPOA, and bring Iran in as a somewhat ally in exchange for their nuclear program being monitored, being civilian only, and them basically not trying to proliferate nuclear weapons. Donald Trump comes into power, and by 2018, he not only leaves the Iran nuclear deal, he puts Iran, or the IRGC, on the terrorist watch list alongside Mike Pompeo, the same guy that said the Mossad walks amongst you, by the way. Same fucking guy. This allowed him to put maximum sanction pressure on Iran, and their economy has been doing bad since. So anyone that tries to tell you that Donald Trump cares about the Iranian people is fucking stupid and doesn't understand that Donald Trump is directly responsible for much of the suffering that the Iranian people endure. This isn't my opinion. This isn't how I feel. This is simply facts. Okay? Now, why is this important? Why am I telling you this? Because when he says, if you attack these protesters or if you hang them, we will attack you. Let me tell you guys why he's really saying that. He's really saying that because within those people that Iran captured are American and Israeli intelligence assets. I'm going to say that again, and I haven't seen enough people talk about this. The reason why Donald Trump said, you better not execute those people or else we will attack, isn't because they're Iranian, or it's not because of freeing the Iranian people. We have proof countering that with the sanctions. He said that because people that the Iranians caught were Western intelligence assets for the United States, Israel, England, Australia, Canada, whatever the fuck you want to say. But definitely the CIA and Mossad. Absolutely. That is why he said that. Now, the Iranians surprisingly did not hang them. They pushed the executions till later. I'll get to it later. We'll hang those guys later. But this was a calculated move by the Iranians because they want to be able to say, we didn't start this war. And I'm going to tell you guys why that's important here in a second. So, they tried the 12-day war, failed. They tried the riots, failed. They tried the regime change, failed. They tried to threaten them and say, if you execute these prisoners, we're going to attack you, failed. Okay? Now, let's get into why the United States is far more cautious on this go-round. So, the 12-day war helped the Iranians identify a lot of their weak points and what they need to fix. One of the things that they needed to fix was air defense. Okay? And their air force in general. Once again, enter in the Chinese. Now, I've talked about this quite a bit, but instead of me talking about it, let me show you some of the new gadgets that they got.
Chinese researchers associated with the country's Air Force recently revealed that they have developed a new radar technology that can easily detect stealth aircraft, including the United States F-22. The number of F-35 series fighters delivered by the United States has exceeded 630, and Japan, South Korea, Australia and other countries have also been equipped with this type of fighters. The F-22 stealth fighters of the United States currently maintain about 180 in the United States. From a global perspective, it still has a very large deterrent capability. American fighter jet F-22 has gained global recognition for its stealth capabilities. As per the US military, the F-22 is the world's most advanced fighter aircraft because of its special design. The F-22 relies heavily on its stealth capabilities to evade enemy air defenses before striking targets with air-to-air missiles with an effective range of about 62 miles. For precision-guided bomb attacks on the ground, the stealth fighter must be within a 12-mile radius. China's new radar system aims to negate this key advantage of the F-22. Stealth aircraft is currently one of the biggest air defense problems in countries around the world, such as the US F-22 or F-35, including the bomber B-2. Their radar signals are too weak, and ordinary radars can hardly detect them, even the more advanced meter-wave radar. Also faces the problem of insufficient accuracy of anti-stealth aircraft, but this problem, in China's view, is no longer a problem. Regarding the global proliferation of stealth aircraft, traditional radars are completely outdated. Only super radars with comprehensive anti-stealth capabilities can truly play a role in defense and early warning.
Okay. Now let's get to another thing that China, another upgrade. So real quick, some of these devices are called the HQ-9B surface air missile, YLC-8B anti-stealth radar, JY-27A anti-stealth radar, HQ-16 surface air missile system, and then the HQ-17E surface air missile system. Okay. And these are some of the pieces of equipment that the Iranians got, newest versions of them, by the way, to assist with their biggest weak point, which was air defense.
Free system represents a significant advancement in China's air defense capabilities. This new arrangement allows the HQ-9B to engage a wider range of targets at varying distances with greater efficiency. According to a report by the state-run Global Times, the larger missiles in the HQ-9B system are designed to intercept long-range targets, while the smaller, thinner missiles are reserved for threats that come closer. The smaller interceptors, although matching the length of the larger ones, have a reduced diameter, allowing for the increased missile count per launcher. The 8 new type missiles can be carried by the same TEL that can carry 4 of the previously known type, the report stated, highlighting the enhanced versatility of the upgraded system. The Chinese People's Liberation Army Central Theater Command has confirmed the deployment of a new variant of the HQ-9B long-range air defense system. With images released by the command showing HQ-9Bs in a new configuration with transporter erector launchers carrying a smaller lighter class of surface-to-air missile, and accommodating up to 8 per launcher. Previously, HQ-9s deployed only larger and longer-ranged missiles, of which 4 could be accommodated on each launch vehicle. Commenting on the images, the state-run Global Times noted that the new smaller missiles were designed to engage targets at shorter ranges, thus complementing the longer-range missiles to allow each HQ-9B to provide more layers of protection. The HQ-9B is by far the most widely produced long-range surface-to-air missile system outside Russia. And much like its better-known...
Now, next thing that they got, and this is actually one of the crazy things that I'll leave that for last. Now, here's the other thing that they got as well, these radars.
Elsewhere. According to Chinese defense sources, a new class of radar is capable of detecting stealth aircraft at distances once considered impossible. The magic behind it all is something called radar cross-section, or RCS. It's basically the measure of how big an object looks on a radar screen. While a regular fighter jet might show up as the size of a barn door, an F-35 is designed to have the radar signature of a metal marble. Its shape is a masterclass in angles, all designed to bounce radar waves away from the receiver, and its skin is coated in a classified radar-absorbent material, or RAM, that just soaks up radar energy. This is the multi-trillion-dollar promise of American air power. See first, shoot first, and get home before the enemy even knew you were there. What often...
And that's the air superiority advantage that we've enjoyed for a very long time, but just quickly dwindling.
Gets lost in these discussions is that stealth was never meant to make an aircraft literally invisible. It was designed to shrink detection ranges just enough to break the enemy's decision-making process. If a
And that's important, guys, that the air superiority, we're talking about like literally like fractions of minutes where it gives you the ability to attack before they know they're getting attacked and for you to get out before they can retaliate. That is what air power relies upon. Stealth to a degree where you can attack and then get out before retaliation can hit you. It's not about being actually invisible. That's damn near impossible to do. So that's a very important distinction to make.
Radar only detects a target at 50 kilometers instead of 200. That difference is everything. It compresses reaction time. It delays fighter launches. It disrupts missile queuing. And most importantly, it fractures the kill chain, the sequence of detection, tracking, targeting, and engagement that air defenses rely on. Stealth buys time. And in modern air combat, time is the most valuable currency. That is why the concern surrounding these radar claims is so serious. Even a partial increase in detection range changes the entire geometry of an engagement. It does not need to guide a missile. It only needs to arrive early enough to trigger a response. This is the threshold China is claiming to have crossed. And crossing it does not make stealth irrelevant. It makes it contested. China's claim cuts right to the heart of that promise. If a truck-mounted radar like the JY-27A can actually spot an F-35 from, say, 350 kilometers out, the entire strategic map gets redrawn overnight. That distance is everything. It's far enough to potentially cancel out the F-35's own advantages in sensors and weapons range. For Western military planners, this is the nightmare scenario. The single, revolutionary feature that justifies the F-35's staggering cost could be neutralized. The ghost, China says, can't hide anymore. So, how exactly do you see a ghost? The answer isn't a more powerful radar, but one that plays by a totally different set of physical rules.
Okay, now let's get into, they're going to go into the mechanics, but we're going to get into the JY-27A. Now, I already know what critics are going to say. Myron, the Venezuelans had this as well. Why couldn't they stop the Americans when they came in and took Maduro? Good point. That's actually a good point. Because I know some fucking military dweeb is going to tell me, hey, bro, well, yes, the Iranians have this JY-27A, Ghost Hunter, but the U.S. was able to neutralize it and kidnap Maduro. Here's the difference. Number one, the Venezuelan military is a joke, and they don't have the competency to be able to operate things like this. Next, the radar, this JY that the Iranians have is a newer version than the Venezuelans had. Okay? Next, the Iranians also have Russian air defense as well as a backup, and indigenous air defense that they made themselves. So they have 3 different layers of technology that they can use for air defense. So the U.S. coming after, and they also have other air defense, they have other radars as well. This was not the only radar. This is one of the radars that the Venezuelans had that failed them during the U.S. operation. But the Iranian military is far more competent. And Venezuela's in our backyard versus the distance that Iran enjoys from the United States. Now you can say, oh, well, we got air bases, all this other stuff. That's true. But also keep in mind that they have Chinese satellites now. The Iranians have Chinese satellite access.
It. At the front of this new capability is the JY-27A, nicknamed the Skywatcher. This isn't some giant, fixed dome from the Cold War. It's a mobile system slapped on a truck, designed to survive on a modern battlefield. Chinese state media claims the whole thing can be set up or packed away in minutes. A life-or-death feature when you know enemy missiles are hunting for your signal. The heart of the JY-27A is its massive active electronically scanned array, or AESA, antenna.
And it's also important to know that the only thing that Venezuelans had, guys, that the Iranians have now, was the JY-27A anti-stealth radar. They did not have the HQ-9B surface air missile system. They did not have the YLC-8B anti-stealth radar. They did not have the HQ-16 surface air missile. We don't have 100% confirmation of this, by the way, that the Iranians have it, but high likelihood that they do have it. And then also the HQ-17E, which we don't know yet if they have it. But there's a high likelihood. So, in other words, to put this into English for you guys, the Iranians not only have a newer version of this radar, the Iranians have other radar, not just that, and this is me just talking with the Chinese angle. They have other radar from the Chinese on top of their own and Russian radars. So, in other words, they have multiple fail points, which from a military perspective is good. You want multiple fail points. Because if you only have one point of failure, well, that's bad. Because then the whole fucking building goes down.
It has thousands of tiny, individual radars all working together. This lets it steer its beam with electricity instead of moving parts.
Or let me say, instead of saying a fail point, let me just say they've diversified their risk. There you go. I think that's a better way to put it. They diversified their risk,
making it faster, more reliable, and way harder to jam. According to its developers, by combining that AESA tech with low-frequency waves and some serious computing power, the radar achieves its anti-stealth performance. They claim a detection range on stealthy targets of 350 kilometers, with some Chinese sources suggesting it could be as far as 500 kilometers. But the JY-27A isn't a lone wolf. It's designed as one piece of China's giant integrated air defense system.
There you go. And the Iranians have more than one. The Venezuelans, the big issue they had, incompetency, and they only had this pretty much.
Or IADS. This is a web of different sensors and weapons all networked together. The strategy isn't for the JY-27A to shoot down an F-35 by itself. Its job is to be the tripwire. It's the long-range lookout that spots a threat that every other radar would miss. Once the JY-27A gets a faint signal, it can share that info across the network. Other systems...
And again, in the game of stealth detection, guys, that's all you need. Seconds matter.
Like passive radars that just listen for a jet's own electronic signals, or even other JY-27A, can then all focus on that same patch of sky. Once all that data is fused, it can create a track that's solid enough to point China's own J-20 stealth fighters or long-range surface-to-air missiles in the right direction. The ghost hunter's job is to tell everyone else where to look. This laid approach is critical to understanding why these systems matter, even if they are imperfect on their own. No single radar is expected to track a stealth aircraft continuously. Instead...
And keep in mind, guys, this is stuff that they didn't have before. So now, the United States and the Israelis have to at least respect that they've increased their capabilities and they're not going to have the same semblance of air superiority that they enjoyed back last year in June. This by no means doesn't mean that the United States or the Israelis can't still attack Iran. But now, the United States and Israel are not going to enjoy the same level of air superiority and high margin W's that they did before. Now they got to think twice before they do shit. And that's all that's needed in modern warfare. And we're basically a glass cannon. We cannot take casualties right now. Neither can the Israelis. And us just having this is about deterrence. That's what the Iranians are trying to do, by the way. They don't want war. They want to deter. Why do you think they've been showing their missiles off? They've been showing off some of the gears that they got. And also, I'm going to show you guys another thing that they just picked up. Save this one for last. They just picked up J-20 fucking fighter jets. Why is this a big deal? The reason why this is a big deal is because the Iranian Air Force hasn't really improved since like the fucking 1970s. Okay? They got like F-4s and shit. They got like old ass fucking jets. Right? From like the days that the Shah bought them when they were friendly with the United States. So now they went from the 70s, 80s to fucking 2026. Yeah, Pop Up Smoke, yes, the USA is a glass cannon, bro, yes. They are. Do you think Trump can stomach military casualties right now in 2026, bro? Like, think before you ask dumb questions. Can the United States at this point politically, right before midterms, the guy that campaigned on no new wars, do you think he can sustain military casualties right now? The answer is no, which effectively makes the United States a glass cannon. Might not want to hear that, might sound fucked up, but at this point right now, militarily, we are a glass cannon. We cannot afford to have casualties. Motherfuckers still remember Iraq. And on top of that, not only do they remember Iraq, everyone is Jew-pilled now. They know who these foreign wars are for. So politically, socially, culturally, economically even, American soldiers dying because of Iranian fucking ballistic missiles would be a political fucking suicide for Trump right now. So yes, we are effectively a glass cannon. We cannot take hits at this moment. Anyway, now that we talked about some of the toys that the Iranians picked up from the Chinese to complement what they already had from the Russians and themselves, they also picked up new fighter jets. And this story just broke out like roughly within the last 24 hours. An Iranian high-ranking military official had basically, I don't want to say a toy, but like a model J-20 Chinese fighter jet. Why did he do that? Send a message. Send a message. Right now, the Iranians are trying to deter the United States because they don't want war. So this is why they're kind of telegraphing their capabilities.
What if the most dangerous fighter jet in the world isn't American and isn't Russian? What if it's already flying patrols, almost invisible to radar, waiting for a war that may never be announced? Meet China's J-20 Mighty Dragon. A stealth fighter.
Now, I'm not here to say that these J-20s are better than our fighter jets, but that's not what matters. What matters is that now they're comparable. And when it comes to military planning, war plan gaming, your advantages dictate your methodology of how you attack. Okay? So, well, let's watch this thing real quick so you guys understand these fighter jets a bit better. But this isn't about having better fighter jets. It's about having comparable fighter jets. That's the key.
They're designed not to dogfight, but to hunt the most critical aircraft in the sky. In today's video, we'll uncover why this jet is making global air forces nervous, and why the balance of air power may be changing faster than anyone expected. In modern aerial warfare, dominance is no longer decided by speed alone. It's about stealth, information, and the ability to strike before your enemy even knows you're there.
That's the game.
And in this new era of combat, one aircraft has captured the world's attention more than most. China's Chengdu J-20 Mighty Dragon. Often compared to the American F-22 and F-35, the J-20 is China's first fifth-generation stealth fighter, and it's rapidly becoming one of the most feared jets in the sky.
And if I'm not mistaken, who showed these jets off? Was it the fucking was it the Pakistanis against the Indians when they had their war? I think that's what made these jets like more feared.
But why does this aircraft worry military analysts, rival air forces, and defense planners across the globe? Today, we're breaking down exactly what makes the J-20 so dangerous, and why it represents a major shift in global air power. For decades, China lagged behind the United States and Russia in advanced fighter technology. While the US was flying stealth aircraft like the F-117 and later the F-22, China relied mostly on upgraded fourth-generation jets. That changed dramatically in 2011, when the J-20 made its first public flight. This wasn't just another fighter jet, it was a statement. The J-20 signaled China's arrival as a serious competitor in next-generation air combat. Since then, the aircraft has transitioned from prototype to active service, with continuous upgrades that suggest China is playing the long game. And that's what makes the J-20 so unsettling. It's not a finished project, it's an evolving one. The first thing you notice about the J-20 is its stealthy design. Its angular fuselage, internal weapons bays, and radar-absorbent materials are all designed to reduce radar cross-section. Stealth isn't just about avoiding radar, it's about controlling the engagement. If the J-20 sees you first, it can decide when and how the fight happens, or whether a fight happens at all.
Now, that's extremely important. The United States and Israel has enjoyed the benefit where they have air superiority, and they're able to dictate the terms at which their pilots fight. It's incredibly important, chat. The Iranians, just having a few of these fighter jets, have now had to change the way that the Israelis conduct warfare. I really want this to sink in. Israel's war plan towards the Iranians was almost exclusively contingent upon air power, chat. Since it was contingent upon air power and air superiority, and Israel's inability to defend itself from Israel's air superiority, that's what their war plan and their methodology of engagement relied upon. But now that they have sophisticated air defense that is comparable, it doesn't even need to be better, comparable, and they have fighter jets that are comparable, this throws a wrench in all of Israel and the United States war plans. This is extremely important. When war planners are at the Pentagon or at the fucking Knesset, wherever, or they're sitting down and they're meeting and they're trying to strategize how they are going to attack, the way that they attack is 100% dictated on the adversary's weaknesses. If the adversary improves said weakness to a comparable level, doesn't even need to be better. I'm being explicitly clear about this. It doesn't even need to be better. It just needs to be comparable. If the adversary can be at a comparable level, that will throw a wrench in all of your war planning. And now, what used to be a 90% success rate has dropped down to 50%. Now, that percentage, depending on who's in power, where we are in the election cycle, what transpired before, that will dictate how we will move forward. Well, let's go back. Does the U.S. public have an appetite for a war? No. Does this war have clear and articulable benefits to the United States? No.
Nope.
Are we on the verge of a critical political event that Trump needs to garner as much support for? Yes.
Yep.
Are any level of troop casualties and or the capture of a B-2 stealth bomber or an F-35 fighter jet or any other type of sensitive U.S. technology, is the capture of that digestible?
Nope.
See where I'm going with this? Sending 50 jets into Iran and knowing that you can lose even maybe 5 or 10 of them is more than likely an unacceptable percentage of risk to take given what's going on and the benefit that comes from this conflict. So this is what's keeping Trump's generals and high-ranking members, brass, at the Pentagon up at night. That's why these niggas are ordering pizzas at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. Guys, there's literally a Pentagon pizza page on Twitter that shows when they have elevated levels of fucking pizza ordering. What does that tell you? They're having late nights. They're burning the midnight oil. And this has been going on for many weeks now since 2026 began with the protests. So what can we infer from all the information that we have? The United States and the Israelis are looking for the most opportune time to attack Iran, where they will mitigate risk, minimize casualties, and get maximum benefit where they can effectuate a regime change. The Iranians, knowing that another war was imminent, were intelligent enough to go ahead and pick up equipment, weapons, and tools that directly counter the United States and Israelis' strongest points, or at bare minimum, bring themselves up from their weak points to an adversarial level where now the United States and Israel has to think twice about anything that they do. This is precisely why Benjamin Netanyahu canceled his meeting for February 18th and moved it up to this week. Every month that passes by, the Iranians are manufacturing 300 missiles domestically. Every day that passes by, the Iranians are getting more and more equipment. Every day that passes by, Russians are helping them with support and logistics. Every day that passes by, Chinese are helping them with support and logistics for the air defense and the radars that they procured. We have a country that used to have an air force stuck in the fucking 1970s and a joke of an air defense system that instantly, overnight, went and transformed into 2026 high-end material. And I want to be clear about this. I've said this before, but I'm going to say this again because I know I'm going to have a bunch of fucking retards in here that are going to tell me, well, Chinese technology isn't that good. It's all cap. It's all smoke and mirrors, whatever. That's not the point. The point is that what Iran is trying to do is create a large level of deterrence. The United States and Israel can absolutely destroy Iran if they wanted to. It's not a matter of can the Israelis and the U.S. win? That's not the question. The question is, are the United States and Israel willing to deal with the casualties and the pain that's going to come from winning? And the answer to that is no from the U.S. perspective. The Israelis might be willing to tolerate it, but the United States definitely isn't. This is why Donald Trump has been flip-flopping. Well, I'm willing to just talk nuclear. Meanwhile, Marco fucking Rubio says, no, we want to talk nuclear, ballistic, and the proxies. This is why Donald Trump said, we will only talk in Istanbul. And then the Iranians turned back and said, no, you're going to talk to us in fucking Oman. And those motherfuckers showed up in Oman. This is why when the Iranians said, we're only talking nuclear, ballistic missiles are off the fucking table, the United States still chooses to meet with the Iranians. And before the second round of talks, Netanyahu wants to make sure that he inserts himself into the U.S. diplomacy team and tell them, hey, just so you know, I know that you guys might be okay with just nuclear. We're not. We're not. These guys have ballistic missiles. These guys are dangerous. These guys can destroy us. We are going to attack with or without your help. Now, here's the sucky part for the United States. The Iranians have already explicitly said that if the United States attacks them or if the Israelis attack them, they're going to see it as an attack on them from both, regardless, and both parties are going to get attacked. So this means bases in the region, strategic ocean locations, oil locations, and the Israelis will get hit back furiously. And not only are they going to get hit back, they're going to get hit back extremely hard. And when the U.S. and the Israelis try to respond to that, they will have to deal with some level of casualty acceptance. And the Trump administration right now cannot stomach U.S. soldiers getting killed in another foreign war in the Middle East. So I predict that Netanyahu is going to tell Trump and give him an ultimatum. We need ballistic missiles gone, and we need proxies not funded. Well, we don't know if we can make that happen. Okay, well, just so you know, if you're not able to make that happen, we are going to attack them anyway, because they are an existential threat to our national security. The 12-day war proved that to us. Well, they have better equipment now. We'll take the risk. That's what's going to happen. So let's go ahead and look at one of their hypersonic missiles. We talked about some of the toys that the Iranians have from the Chinese. Let's talk about some Iranian weapons that they have. This is one of their hypersonic missiles, the Fatah, and they also have a Fatah 2 as well. We talked about the Korshmir last time. Now we're going to dive into the Fatah.
An object moving at 13 times the speed of sound. In this video, we look at Fatah 1, Iran's aerospace engineering masterpiece, so stay with me until the end to unlock its secrets. In June 2023, a piece of news exploded like a loud bomb. Iran officially unveiled its very first hypersonic missile named Fatah 1. This is not just a simple missile, but a game changer. Let's see why this new weapon keeps many people awake at night. You might ask, what does hypersonic actually mean right now? In very simple language, it means...
And just so you guys know, Israel and the United States do not have hypersonic missiles. They have nukes.
Speed above Mach 5, but Fatah's story goes way beyond just these basic numbers today. The speed of this missile is reported between 13 and 15. To give you a better understanding, let's do a quick calculation. It travels at about...
And just so you guys know, Iranian state media has been like showing off their missiles the past couple of days. They've been showing off the Korshmir, they were showing off the Fatahs on Iran state media, saying that we're going to hit the United States hard like they've never been hit before. And I'll tell you this, the U.S. is scared. Trump won't admit it. Israel won't admit it. But they are very concerned with Iran's ability to retaliate. They are far more formidable after the 6-day war. These niggas are like Saiyans, bro. The day after the 12-day war, those niggas were in China buying up fucking everything. Let me get one of those. Let me get a couple of those. Let me get a couple of those. Okay, we're going to give you oil at a discounted price. All right, let me get that satellite. Oh, you guys are going to bring in personnel to help us with technology support? Cool. Serious upgrade. Upgrades. I mean, the fighter jet upgrade alone is enough. Niggas' Air Force was stuck in the fucking 1970s. And those guys just hit fucking fast forward.
16 to 18,000 kilometers per hour. This insane speed causes the enemy's reaction time to drop drastically. Practically, by the time they try.
And this missile right here is what Israel fears the most, dude. Niggas are terrified of this shit. Niggas are terrified of this shit, bro.
Tried to move, it is late. The next important point you must know is the precise range. Fatah 1 can hit targets at a distance of 1,400 kilometers. This means easy access to sensitive strategic points across the region. Note that combining this range with such speed is very dangerous. But wait, speed is not the only scary feature here, friends. The main trump card is its incredibly strange maneuverability in space. Most ballistic missiles follow a specific and arched path to targets, but Fatah can constantly change its path and move in zigzags. Now let's look a bit more technically at its beating heart. This missile comes with a powerful two-stage solid fuel engine system. Using solid fuel means the preparation time for launch is minimal. In fact, they can launch it towards the target very quickly. The secret of Fatah's maneuvering lies in the second stage nozzle. This advanced movable nozzle directs thrust in various different directions effectively. The warhead maneuvers inside the atmosphere just like a fighter jet. This feature makes predicting its final path impossible for enemy radars. It is interesting to know Fatah works inside and outside atmosphere. This missile can exit the atmosphere and dive back into it. Complex movement in different atmospheric layers makes interception extremely hard indeed, because current defenses are designed for targets with fixed paths only. The main goal of building Fatah is bypassing powerful missile shields. Famous systems like Patriot or Arrow are helpless against this bird. High speed and sudden path changes mess up enemy radar calculations. They cannot guess the next impact point to lock their radars. The Fatah warhead has a conical shape and is very aerodynamic. This specific design helps maintain high speed during the final dive. Also, materials used in the body have very high heat resistance, because at that terrible speed, air friction produces melting hot heat. Some experts say this missile has some radar stealth properties too. Special body coatings absorb radar waves and reflect them much less. Of course, the dizzying speed itself takes away accurate identification time. This means the enemy notices the danger when it's too late. In the world, only a few—
You guys are catching on that like stealth and speed is the key. Hitting them before they even realize.
countries possess such advanced technology. Russia, China, the US, and North Korea are in this club. Now Iran has joined this
But the US does not have hypersonics. They have technology like it, but we got nukes, bro. We don't need hypersonics.
limited and powerful group with Fatah. This shows a huge leap in Iran's missile technology recently. Well, friends, let's see what the operational and tactical use is. Fatah is for hitting enemy radars and opening paths for others. First, Fatah blinds defense systems so the sky becomes wide open. This smart tactic ensures the second wave of attacks succeeds perfectly. Accuracy of impact, or being a pinpoint striker, is very important. Despite supersonic speed, its guidance system works very accurately and precisely. Combining speed and precision turns Fatah into a sniper weapon effectively. It can destroy exactly the point we want with great power. Strategically, unveiling Fatah changed the balance of power in the region. The message of this advanced missile to neighbors was quite clear, that no defense shield can guarantee 100% security anymore. This issue creates a serious and heavy deterrence for Iran today. Fatah also has the capability of firing from mobile ground platforms. Firing from a mobile—
Now, this is very important. So the Iranians, guys, and this is a big reason too why a ground assault would be retarded. These guys have underground cities with thousands of fucking missiles stockpiled. And they have trucks like this all over the place that can move, shoot, drive away. Go to another location, move, shoot, drive away. Nightmare to to deal with.
Launcher means high missile survivability before launch. They can hide it in underground tunnels and
they have underground cities, chat. You guys think Hamas is bad? Where do you think Hamas learned? From these niggas right here.
suddenly bring it out. This feature makes identifying launch sites difficult for spy satellites. Building such a missile might cost money, but it is worth it. The cost of enemy interceptor missiles is usually much higher, actually.
Roughly $12 million. The THAAD missiles are roughly $12 million. Oh, and by the way, we spent about 25% of them during the 12-day war. Some fucking retard was trying to be like, oh, Myron, we actually make way more THAAD missiles. No, we don't, dude. At one point, we were making 20 to 40 a year. Then we bumped it up to roughly 100. Now, with the war going on, as of January 2026, Pete Hegseth and the Department of War put in an order to get 400 a year. Let's assume we get 400 a year. The Iranians have 300 missiles a month. Are you guys starting to see why Netanyahu pushed this fucking meeting a week early? Are you guys starting to see why now Donald Trump is trying to look for some kind of excuse to like maybe attack, but maybe not, but also looking for a diplomatic off-ramp? Do you see why now the Iranians are way more confident dictating terms, saying, no, you meet us in Oman, bitch? You see why now, like, the Iranians are saying, we're not going to negotiate anything but nuclear, but we're still going to the talks? Time helps the Iranians. It doesn't help the Israelis.
The enemy must fire several expensive missiles to maybe hit one. Economically, fighting against Fatah is very costly for the enemy side. Fatah 1
and you more than likely will not even hit it.
Is just the start of the story. New versions come. As we saw, the second version was introduced with cruise capabilities. Iranian engineers are constantly upgrading the range and precision of this. This path of progress does not stop, and we hear news. The reflection of this missile's unveiling in Western media was widespread. Many didn't believe it at first, but had to admit. Military analysts said countering this missile is a nightmare for defenses. These admissions show that the Iranian engineers' work was truly correct. Building Fatah had many—
And just so you guys know, this is why Israelis, one of the top things that they do is work to kill scientists all the time. That's literally what the Mossad does. The Mossad might as well be called the fucking Iranian assassination agency. Iranian scientist assassination agency. The Iranians make very powerful weaponry in-house. That's literally one of the biggest things the Mossad does, is kill Iranian scientists.
Many technical challenges that are not simple to solve. Managing heat on the body at Mach 15 requires high technology. Also, radio communication with the missile at these speeds is difficult. Passing through the plasma layer around the missile is a challenge. The Fatah guidance system must make important decisions in split seconds. Its flight computer must process and command at the speed of light. This intelligence allows the missile to find its way through defenses. It is as if the missile has eyes and dodges obstacles. I emphasize again that composite solid fuel is a very big advantage. This fuel releases a massive amount of energy in a short time.
Oh, also, this fuel, the Chinese have been importing it to the Iranians as well, hiding it within their within other items.
Also, keeping solid fuel missiles in warehouses is easier and safer. Their operational life is longer and they remain—
Oh, no, sorry, I got it mixed up. It's for the other type of missiles that they have that use a certain type of fuel.
Ready.
The Chinese have basically been getting around and smuggling it into Iran is the point I'm trying to make.
To fire.
To make their ballistic missile program even more dangerous. In other words, the Iranians have been preparing since June for this day. And they've been preparing for this war really for decades, but especially as of recently.
So let's review the key features of Fatah together once again. Range of 1,400 kilometers, Mach 15 speed, and high maneuverability. Two-stage solid fuel engine and movable nozzle to escape radar. These are specs that turn Fatah into a nightmare for enemies. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story of this engineering masterpiece. Definitely write your opinions for me in the comments section, friends. What do you think?
Okay, let's go through.
So this
Okay, this is Israeli TV. Let's see what they got to say.
report by Guy Azriel over at our sister Hebrew channel really confirms the tone that has been coming out of the Prime Minister's office since he announced this early visit, since he basically told the world that he's rushing over to Washington ahead of schedule. And when he made that statement back on Saturday night, the first thing that was mentioned was missiles, Iranian missiles. And then since then, we've had more and more reporting which make it clear that the Iranian missile program is the main trigger for this visit. And
yeah, told y'all.
This report, quoting foreign sources, say that Iran could possess around 2,000 ballistic missiles in the near term. Now, just to put that in perspective, going into the June war, Operation Rising Lion, Iran had 2,000 missiles. And what they actually wanted to do, according to Israeli intelligence assessments, was to build 8,000 missiles. Now, Israel's air defense systems are very capable. I think they're the best in the world, but there's a limit to what they can do in the face of that quantity. It's not the quality of the missiles right now that's the issue. It's the sheer quantity.
Yep. And they're making 300 a fucking month. You guys see why? Do you guys see why the Israelis are scared now? Oy vey.
Iranians want to be able to be in a situation where they can saturate our air defenses with pure numbers. And I think that what Prime Minister...
And not just that. The proxies are going to launch missiles at y'all niggas too. Hezbollah got thousands of rockets. So do the Houthis.
Sir, Netanyahu is going to be telling President Trump is the missiles have got to be part of this deal. There has to be a freeze on this production. And if not, then Israel...
Oh, they're not freezing production. They're definitely not freezing production. Production of these missiles is precisely what's keeping them safe.
To reserve its own right to strike.
Yo, guys, I did not watch this shit. I did not watch this shit. This is the importance of watching different media.
So this
nigga knows they're cooked. This is Jewish TV, bro. Literally, I-24 News English. This is Israeli TV.
This is the main headline here. The nuclear program is advancing much more slowly. It sustained years of damage in that June strike.
This is the Corsair or Corsair or some shit like that. This is another one of their ballistic missiles.
And it's going to take them a long time to bounce back from that. But the missile program is bouncing back much more quickly. And I think this is the real reason why Prime Minister Netanyahu is on the plane right now heading towards Washington.
That nigga's terrified, bro. That nigga's terrified. We covered quite a bit here. Give me ones in the chat if that makes sense and you learned something new. I know it was really long. We spent like over an hour probably breaking this shit down. And you guys are OSS, so you guys can be constructive. I feel bad because I feel like I always fucking repeat myself explaining Hamas, Hezbollah, IRGC, Bashar al-Assad, Ahmed al-Shara. I feel like I'm fucking redundant, but like I always think to myself like, you know, shit, like there's probably new people here, didn't hear this shit. You know, I'm like, okay, I want to make it comprehensive. So yeah, I'd be feeling bad. I feel like I'm like a fucking broken record sometimes. But for me to properly explain the deal, I had to explain the proxies. For me to properly explain the proxies, I had to identify who they are and how we got here. So it's like I would have, I looked at it like, damn, like this, if I just go right to the deal and don't explain the proxies, it's not going to be fully comprehensive.